So, okay, who are we? Internet Archive is a nonprofit library up in San Francisco. We're not part of the government. We're not part of a university. We're an independent library. There used to be lots of independent libraries. There are not that many independent libraries anymore, but we're one, and you should come visit us. We're in the Richmond district of San Francisco. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. Actually, California, Susan Hildreth, when she was at the California State Library, anointed us a library, which was very helpful. It got us E-rate funding and allowed us to face down the FBI. And just to go and say, look, this isn't the way you work with libraries. And that, as Mary pointed out, is there and true. We get about 1 million to 1.5 million users of our website a day. And so it's, in general, a fairly popular set of services. Some of the things that I like about the Internet Archive is we started collecting the World Wide Web after we got the whole publishing system of the web, help getting that going. And you can go and use this free service to see old websites. It's got about 150 billion web pages. So it's got a pretty good collection of sites. And we're trying to keep it up to date as the web grows. So if you go to archive.org, you can type in a URL and see past versions. It's not searchable, but you can go and find it based on URLs. And it's still useful, even in its relatively primitive form. It gets about 500,000 users a day. So it's used as a sort of out-of-print web page service. It's a sort of a cure to the 404 problem as things are not available. So that's kind of fun and neat. This is what the Yahoo page looked like in 1996. It's kind of clean, isn't it? It's kind of like Google today. Other things that we've grown into is to try to be a host for other people's stuff. And one of the communities is the live music guys that started out with the Grateful Dead going and recording concerts and then sharing tapes, the tape traders. Which I had a few tapes in my day. As long as you didn't make any money, you were allowed to pass the tapes around. So it was sort of bootlegging, but with permission. And this whole community moved online, and then we said we would be up for being a central repository. And we offered, and typing in this little email chat to their email list, we would be up for being unlimited storage, unlimited bandwidth, forever for free. They wrote back, we don't believe you. It's too big, it's too hard. We said, but if you could do it, it would be our dream. And it started us on a course towards being a host for communities that are building digital materials that aren't under the control of us. And it's another role for libraries that I think we can all do. We can be for personal archives or for your particular areas. You can be repositories. It's not that expensive. People love it. They really are looking for a home for these. So you can do this as well. And so not only do we have everything the Grateful Dead ever recorded, but we have almost 5,000 other bands, about 80 or 90,000 concert recordings. And people have also uploaded about 800,000 other audio recordings to the Internet Archive. So when people want things available forever, they often put things like in the Internet Archive. If they, YouTube, which does video as we do as well, YouTube, of course, really swept the field. But there's no guarantee those things are going to last. So we had to do an active harvest of Yahoo video before it went down, and Google Video gave 2 weeks notice before they said that service was going down, and all of the materials deleted. Based on a firestorm, we were able to help orchestrate on the internet. They've pushed off the date somewhat, and we're still archiving all of the Google videos. But Flickr is going to go down, YouTube is going to go down, so we need long-term storage of cultural materials that are born digital, that are organized and metadated by other people. Another thing I kind of like about it is there's a books collection, and I'm a book lover. And I was teaching my son geometry, which is completely fun. And I said, let's use Euclid's Elements, right? The book written in 300 BC, but in translation. So we went around, I looked around at a bunch of scanned versions of it. And they were interesting, but they weren't great. But the really good one that we used was actually on the internet from a Clark University professor. That was a really good annotated Euclid's Elements, which is the fundamentals of geometry. And my 13-year-old loved that, and we were going through it. And then there's this quirky book by this guy named Oliver Byrne, published in 1847, of doing Euclid's Elements, but with colors and pictures. And so I called up our friends. There's been a facsimile edition of this, so we bought the facsimile edition, but we wanted the real stuff on the internet. And so it turned out that it was in the rare book collection of the University of Toronto, and so a couple days later they hoofed it down there to the scanning center, and they digitized it and made it available. So, and it turned out, actually, I was looking it up just for this talk yesterday, and it turned out that the Getty Research Library had scanned their copy just a couple weeks ago. So it's starting to be that the libraries are working together to put great materials that are public domain up and out there and available for free. So those are just a couple of the things that I kind of like about the Internet Archive, and hopefully you'll visit archive.org and see how it can be useful in your environments, either for hosting materials that you have or for sharing the materials that are already up there. But to get to the sort of point of the talk, I'll center mostly on books. So we worked since, I don't know, around 2000, 2001 on trying to get a lot of books digitized. And there was a program funded by the NSF, run by Carnegie Mellon, called the Million Books Project. And it was working with the government of India and the government of China. And the idea is the United States would send scanners and books. They'd scan it, we'd get the books back, plus the digital books. They'd get to keep the digital books. And it would be sort of a worldwide library. We participated in it. It was really clunky. And the answer was, scan your own darn books. So the Indians like scanning their own books, but the idea of scanning our books, they was like, fair enough. So we started building up our own scanning centers. And this is the one in San Francisco, in the Richmond district. Then around the outside are book scanners, and down the center are microfilm scanners. And we're really good at microfilm. People really don't want to use microfilm anymore, but we do, to basically go and digitize it and make it as publicly available as possible. So we don't put new restrictions on materials, so we're not claiming any kind of copyright or any kind of restrictions, and we pretty much only work with others that don't, but just because the library was holding it doesn't mean that they have rights to go and restrict how people use it. If it's public domain, let's keep it public domain. And if there's copyright problems, burdens on the underlying material, let's not put new restrictions on top of it. Let's just make it as available as the law allows. So we've built up these scanning centers now. There are 23 of them in 6 countries. It's funded by libraries. We got the price down to 10 cents a page. About half of it's for labor. And the rest is for all the technology and storage and endowing the terabytes that it lives on so that the materials won't die. But it's about 10 cents a page. And it's funded at this point through libraries. It was started with foundation funding. Then Microsoft put in about $10 million to go and build a sort of competing project for Google, and then they dropped out. And then now it's basically library funded. The last bunch were digitized with stimulus dollars by our hiring unemployed single parents. So it was a part of a CalWorks program in San Francisco where we could hire people that were unemployed single parents, and we got a subsidy, an 80% subsidy. It was great, and we really tried to scale up. And the San Francisco Public Library came through completely by giving us a floor of a building to just go and build out and take advantage of this time. The K.L. Lawson Foundation put in the extra 20%. So these sorts of, and what happened to that program was filibustered to death even before it had run out of money by the minority party. This was incredibly sad to go and push a bunch of people, unemployed single parents, back into the welfare system. But there are hopefully other programs like this. So it's basically just labor. We can do it as training, we do it any which way. It's basically turning pages and photographing the pages. We now have about 2 million books that are old enough to have no rights burdens, so you can go and do anything you want with them. We think we're in pretty good shape on the public domain.